I can't tell you how many times I was having conversations with people like, I don't do this because I'm not creative. That's a lie. You are creative in your own way. We just haven't been able to help you understand how you're creative.
Ideas, by definition, are always fragile.
No tolerance for failure, no innovation.
The best ideas have to win.
This is the Synthesize Pod from Bright Idea. It's your weekly hit of insights and actionable strategies for innovation-minded professionals that just want to get shit done. Welcome to Season 1, Just Say Hackathon.
All right, everyone, we're back again with another pod episode, and one of my favorite innovation practitioners is here to chat with us. Is Jordan? Say hello.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me, Matt. Margaret?
Yeah. Don't tell the other ones that this is one of your favorites.
Well, I'm sure people understand after this episode.
Great.
I mean, he's already my favorite just from the before we hopped into the recording. So I'm right there with you. One of my favorite innovation experts too now.
Thank you so much. On people. But yeah, Jordan, great to chat with you again. It's probably been since I think 2018 that we were together.
Yeah, Synthesize.
Yeah, you came out and you were talking hackathons back then too. So so cool. Why don't we do some intros so people understand who you are and where you're coming from, and then we can get into the Hack Week and all the stuff you've been doing over there. Sound good?
Yeah. How deep do we want to go here? Jordan
Give us your whole life story.
Okay. Jordan
Learn how to read at
LaFramboise.
3.
I did. I learned how to read at 3 years old. One of my first books I read was Moby Dick.
Whoa.
Jordan LaFramboise. I lead our innovation program for rocket companies, which includes, of course, Rocket Mortgage, Rocket Homes, Rocket Money. We've got a whole lot of rockets happening there.
Help me understand, because it was Quicken previously. Is that rebranded now? Are they two separate entities?
Yeah, so we were Quicken Loans, and now we're Rocket Mortgage is that mortgage arm. But the larger Rocket Holdings, Rocket Companies encompasses, many services and orgs that are, focused a lot on financial fintech. So
just for backstory for some folks, because I went out to visit Rocket a couple of years ago, and it's the craziest thing. I mean, Detroit at that time had seen better days, and yet you walk into Rocket and it's like you're in the middle of Google. There's like the colorful couches and the whiteboards everywhere, and so it's really an amazing success story what Dan Gilbert's done there, and just the whole phenomenon of the whole Rocket ecosystem, if you will. Yeah, I mean, we're really fortunate to have Dan leading the way, and I mean, he's been a huge influence. Inspirationally, not just professionally, but personally on a lot of us, and always thankful and grateful for the opportunity I have to make an impact in Detroit and just on our team members in general. So I'm glad you got to see that and feel that energy. Yeah, I know he was kind of, it seemed like he was taking personal responsibility for reviving the city. It was pretty impressive to see. Yeah. I am curious, culture there is so palpable when you walk in. It's almost like, it's like stepping off the plane in a humid vacation spot where, you just feel it immediately with the isms and stuff. I'm curious if you have any insights there on how Dan manifested that, and, what kind of the key elements are to kind of, take everyday people and kind of get them to perform at their highest level. Man, I can share my personal experiences to just anecdotally kind of illustrate that. I came into the organization in 2003 as a failed musician, a community college dropout, kind of, I'll say directionless, only from the fact that I wanted to do music. I didn't want to work, right? And I had, I had a friend who worked at Rocket or Quicken at the time. Was like, look, you'd love this culture. I really think, and she tried multiple times, and finally she, got the ear of my wife, and she's like, you just go give it a shot, right? So I came in, and there was just something about the implicit trust and access to everything you would need that just makes you believe everything you're being told. I don't know what the right way to, but it's like, from the jump, you're like, you can come to see us anytime, any of your leaders, just open door, right? Like, just if you got ideas. So it was that empowerment right from the beginning of, I want to hear from you. In my second day on the floor, the president of the company is at my desk, hey, welcome to the team.
we're glad to have you. You didn't know who I was, but just like they're there out, like you're told that this is how it is, and then you see it in action. So foundationally, you just begin to trust that like this is a company that does what they say they're going to do. And then on top of that, you have these core values of the isms, and it just gives you such an easy North Star to align to and to be able to communicate with one another. And I think what was really most impactful, so I started in 2003, 9 months we're at an all-company meeting, and it's Tony Robbins and Dan Gilbert on stage at the Fox Theater in Detroit. And they say something to the effect of, if you don't love what you're doing, you should quit and go do that. So I did that. Like, I quit. I left. I called my wife. I said, I'm going to give the band another shot. She's like, what are you talking about? Dan just said, if you don't love what you're doing, you should quit and go do it. So
Tony Robbins told me to do it.
Yeah. So I put in my notice, and the response I got was wholly unexpected. Like, my leader's like, oh, great. Congratulations. Like, we're really excited for you. And just know you have a spot here if it doesn't work out. So it didn't work out. I'm here today, right? So, but like,
you got to tell us the name of the band.
Catalog only.
Okay. And what was it? What was the style?
I was a very intensely hyper emotional 90s teenager, and that translated throughout my entire musical thing. So it's very what was in the movie Clueless? They called it complaint rock.
Okay.
But I would say we were kind of if you know who the Tragically Hip are, we're kind of in that vein.
Okay.
That sort of college alternative rock.
Okay.
Angst forward, very emotional, healthy emotions. So that was a fundamental lesson of trust for me. Like, I'm given guidance, and I had no reason to believe it wasn't sincere guidance. Like, I truly believe, like, Dan means that. Like, he wants you to experience the best of your life and to get what you want out of it. And that comes through from him. And every time I dealt with him, like, look, I don't have some special relationship with Dan, right? But like, I know he cares about everybody genuinely.
Yep.
And if you have a second, I could share a great example of that story.
Let's do it.
So 2012, my father passed away. He was diagnosed with cancer, and he was given like 6 months, and his doctors told him to come up with a bucket list. So the first thing on his list was, I want to meet Bob Dylan. So I thought, okay, how could I, right? Like, how could I help that happen for my dad?
Right.
Like, I know a guy. So I emailed Dan. I was like, hey, I'm not expecting an answer, but this is the situation. My dad has a little bit of time left, and he would love to meet Bob Dylan. You're the one guy I know that has a chance to make that happen. 5 minutes later, I get a response back, hang tight, I'm on it. Right. And again, this is not like based on any established relationship. This is just my trust in our leaders. When they tell us they're here for anything we need, like, I believe that. So I reached out in one of the most vulnerable points of my life. Right.
Yeah.
And then not too much time later, can your dad fly out to Seattle? We might have a chance on Bob's first leg.
Wow.
Sure. What's the worst that could happen? And then my dad ended up passing away shortly thereafter. So I reached back out to Dan and I said, thank you for everything. My dad passed, and appreciate all you're trying to do for our family. He said, well, you know what? We're still trying to make this happen for your family. So like, pick a sibling and so you go through a couple cycles. Doesn't work out with Bob and his crew. That's just not something they normally do, which is fine. But the fact that like, somebody's trying to make that effort for you. So Dan said, hey, here's a few tickets to a Cavs game, which is not uncommon for us to, go and celebrate down there. It's like, bring one of your brothers or whatever. So I take my brother down there, and I go to the suite we're normally at. They're like, oh no, honey, you're in the wrong seat. Like, you're down with the team. So like, Dan had us on the bench with the team, and like, just a whole experience. So like, I'm not encouraging everybody to like ask for the moon. Oh, right. The point is, like, when you talk about how have our leaders created a culture and buy-in, because they genuinely care and love their team members. Like genuinely, like, love is a thing that I think we use for a lot of different ways. But like, you have a love for people, right? And a passion for people, and to like do good things for people. so they in turn do good things for more people. That's how I think it works. And it can happen at, within the work, within empowering in so many different ways. But like, that's what gets me to want to contribute back and give back so much to a company that has given back to me, is just knowing how deeply our people care for one another.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a deep emotional safety.
For sure. And, that's like when I was thinking about this conversation of like, and this is what I share with other people too, when we ask about like my take on innovation, like I think innovation requires some core, not the execution of the stuff, but enabling innovation requires whoever's at the helm of it to have a high degree of empathy, to be able to be extremely vulnerable and very courageous, because you're often in these really like nebulous spaces where you're going to be told no, you're going to be told your ideas are not good, right? You're going to have things you're really passionate about and really want to go with, and it's not going to work out. And you've got to be able to absorb that. You got to have that resiliency. And I think like these experiences, like getting a job and quitting it to go pursue the thing I love most and failing at it, like having this really emotional experience with my father and with the organization, like asking for the moon and like being vulnerable to have that experience, and maybe it won't work out. Like those are all things I think that were more important on my journey to what we're doing now than anything I could talk about as far as I did XYZ on a project, or I have these skills as a leader, or I think this is how you do work.
It's almost more impressive that you felt comfortable asking than that he actually helped, right? It's more of an achievement that you had that comfort level to begin with, and then as a leader, if you're in that prominent of a position, you welcome the opportunity to do things for your team. But it's that's something pretty special, and yeah, like I said, it's palpable when you step off the plane, so to speak. You just feel it, and obviously walking around Detroit, you see elements of the RKT Holdings everywhere you look, and
yeah.
And Dan's been a huge, this is outside of the hackathon stuff, but the Cheese Factory is RKT, global suggestion box. And it's like, it's amazing. And that gone through its trials and tribulations. And literally there were times where it was like on the ropes, and he stepped in and was like, no, this is core. We want anyone in the company to be able to have an idea, and we're gonna keep this world-class infrastructure for that system. It's
Yeah, Matt, I think the Cheese Factory itself is really like the functional foundation of innovation in our organization. Like the process of it, like the idea, like that's kind of where, it was always there, right? Like we have our isms, we have this culture, but when we started to do this Cheese Factory and tell all of our team members that, hey, look, your ideas are welcome and here's the place to put them. That's the kernel and the genesis of what I'm doing today.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
So like I said, I started in 2003 and I was hired in operations just doing data entry. Like in the Moore Trust, there's just a billion things that have to happen.
Right.
And I was doing one piece of that puzzle around homeowners insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And, like
I
mentioned,
quit that for music.
Hey, look, it's not the widget, right? It's the reason and the why that we're making the widgets that, is the important part. So, yeah. But yes.
2003 data entry.
Yep. Left for 9 months, came back in October of 2004.
Okay.
Started doing more data entry stuff. And then there was a knock on my door. I was in an office and I turned around. It's Dan, Bill Emerson, Heather Levere, a few of our other senior leaders. And they were like, hey, we just want to, well, first my heart was racing a little bit. I'm like, well,
what did I do wrong this time?
This has been fun. No, but it's like, look, we just want to take some time and learn from you today. So we're going to sit with you for a few hours, and we're going to understand everything you do. We're going to ask a bunch of questions and just work how you work.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of this thing called the Mousetrap team. Yep. Which was, I think the corollary could probably be like business consulting in other organizations. Like that's kind of the function.
Yep.
But it's really focused on all aspects, not just the process, people, technology, all of these things. But it was started with our most senior of leaders saying, we're going to understand and we're going to trust the people that do the work to tell us what we need to do better.
Amazing.
Right? And then that was 2004. And that's when the first time I was like, oh, you mean there's a job where I can like make people feel good about what they're doing and like help us to figure things to do better? Like, I want to do that someday. And that's like that first little kernel. And over the course of, the next few years, I got the opportunity to get into leadership. I started to be able to work on new project that this Mousetrap team was spinning up. Like, we're trying to experiment more things. So I started to get into this like clip of being able to ask questions and like dig into new things and ask why. And as part of like an implicit part of my everyday role was to also like be curious. And, eventually 2012, I found my way to the Mousetrap team, and we had just started this thing called Bullet Time, which was 4 hours every Monday. All of our technology team members had the opportunity just to pause what they're doing and say, what if, right? Sky's the limit. And we want to figure out X, Y, Z. And you could do anything. You could build new technology. You can build an app. Had nothing to do with the mortgage business. We had a couple of new companies come out of that process. So really, it was like this wide open space.
Kind of like the Google 20% time back in the day.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And that was paired with like the Cheese Factory team. We used like the open ideation to help drive some of that work.
Yep.
And then 2014 Matt, is when we ran our first hackathon. That was when that like concept came into being.
Okay.
Well, we didn't create, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
like, hey, we already see the value in this unstructured time for a technologist to just kind of tinker and do something. What if we start to play around with those duration and speed and purpose for these different, because like depending on what you want to get out of innovation, there's different ways you wield those tools.
Yeah. Different
so
modality.
You want green. Yeah. Right. So you want greenfield innovation. You want people taking risks. Give them space. Give them time to fail. Give them that like greenfield, like that kind of bullet time concept, right? The world is your oyster.
Yep.
Give them that space.
Yep.
Right. But you want to run fast. You want to get competitive. You want to think about like, singular focus charges. Like, let's condense that time. Let's talk about incremental. Let's see how far you can get with a singular idea in 24 hours. See what happens there, right? So not only are you getting different kinds of ideas, but you're getting different people engaged. Someone like me who loves to take risks, like give me bull time all day.
Right.
Give me that freedom all day. There's others who want to get recognition, want to compete, want to win prizes, want to go fast. Like, I love hackathons. So 2014, we started that. 2015 is when I actually got the honor to lead the program as my function.
Was 2014 just a one-day thing, or what was the? How'd you guys get?
Yeah, it was a 24-hour
and what
hackathon.
Was the scope? Was it just the tech team? Was it?
Yep, it was just technology.
Okay.
Yeah, just the technology team. You could come in with any idea you wanted. There was no constraints, but other than, look, you got 24 hours to create something, so you want to have some kind of function, something functional at the end.
Yeah,
wasn't a requirement, but it certainly helped.
Yep.
That was the first one we did, and then 2015, I got to take the reins of the program as a whole, and really kind of think through of how do we start tying this like open innovation time and hackathons and ideation, all these things like programmatically together to create like an ecosystem.
Now, did you raise your hand for that, or was someone nudge you into it?
I got a little bit of nudging from my leaders, but I also had to, say, yeah, I'm interested to do it. So we, interviewed for it, and I was able to get that opportunity. And, I think part of that nudging came from just how involved I had been in the past. Like I mentioned a little bit of, working on new projects and being really inquisitive and curious and being on the Mousetrap team and really digging into to be able to advocate to give people time to make great things, right? That was like, it's kind of my angle in there.
Yep. Okay.
I think that's really interesting. I'm just going back to it's still stuck in my head, this idea of like different types of innovation and the outcomes that you want, and then how you structure programs to deliver on those. And I don't think I've really thought about it that way of like the freedom and the space to come up with ideas being really important, but also the motivation of competition, time boxed, like healthy stress on an innovative idea can be really useful too.
Well, I think I related a lot to art when we are kids, and you go to art class and you're put into either you're creative or you're not, and then we carry that. we carry that through with us into our adult lives, and I don't think we realize that. And we get into, because I can't tell you how many times I was having conversations with people like, I don't do this because I'm not creative. That's a lie. You are creative in your own way. We just haven't been able to help you understand how you're creative. So, like, oftentimes you'll see, well, I don't know if this is true anymore, but you would see a lot of failure at the enterprise level of innovation comes from misalignment of your practice, your purpose, and your people. So all of those things really need to be aligned to have successful innovation. It doesn't matter, like, if you want really high risk greenfield innovation, awesome. You can't put structures in place that limit that. You have to give people the space. You can't say you can do whatever you want and then say, but only in this way. Because that's not greenfield. I mean, you can have more structured control types of innovation where you say, look, this is directly what we want, and go produce something within there. So it'd be like, you're an artist and I only give you watercolors and I expect you to give me greatness, but you're really the next Russian cubist. You're really the next Salvador Dali, and I have not given you the means to show me that. So I'm a CIO or a CTO, and I'm only giving you one toolbox to innovate, and I think you're not creative, you're not an innovator, but really I'm just not giving you everything you need. So what we try to do, taking bullet time, taking hackathons, taking partnerships with our intentional projects with our business partners, we try to provide all these different means year-round for people to engage in the way that makes sense for them. Because, like, I don't believe you should create a program that is one-size-fits-all. I think you should create a series of programs that allow for everybody to find a space at any given time.
I think the thing I love about hackathons is, hackathon and hack, those words have multiple meanings, right? Hack can be bad, like somebody's trying to get into your systems, and hack can be hacking through the jungle. And the thing I love about the experience of a hackathon is it's like hacking through the jungle. Like things are coming up, like branches are coming into your face, and you just have a machete and you're just trying to cut those out of your way and just make another, 6 inches or foot of progress as you kind of trailblaze through this thing. And, it's kind of nice to not have all the constraints of, oh, is this going to work in 30 different languages and, 20 time zones and all the stuff you have to do to make a platform, sophisticated. You're just trying to get to that one prototype, that one thing that you can kind of show that, show the potential to other people.
Yeah. And man, it's a very physical experience. Like last year, in our last year's 24-hour hackathon, which we called Stranger Hacks, all of our 24-hour hackathons have like a pop culture theme around it that we use to decorate. I was thinking it was going
to be more mouse and cheese puns.
Yeah, so let's see. Our hackathons have been Hackoween, so based off a Halloween movie, Hack to the Future.
Oh, nice.
Let's see. A Jurassic Hack. The Hack Strikes Back, based off of Star Wars. This year's is Hackamania, so it's a professional wrestling themed hackathon.
Nice.
But last year during Stranger Hacks, like it was probably 3 a.m, and I'm watching into one of the rooms where it was a single person working on a project, and he was like dancing, focused, just like bouncing like up, like pumping himself up. I could tell when he was like hit a roadblock and he'd be like, what's happening, and then he'd overcome it and like fist pump, and get up, and just like, it is unexpectedly tactile experience watching developers just be problem solvers unrestrained.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I think the scarcity of the free time is a real motivator, I mean, we have our own hackathon coming up, our annual hackathon coming up, and like, you just know there's like this window, and like we tell people they can do some prep work so that they're not blocked out of the gate, right? They can kind of prepare and incubate their idea a little bit, get everything set up so they can hit the ground running. But it's just like that. It's so precious, right? Because I know even in my own day job, I'm going to be back doing board slides and stuff like that. So it's like, if I want to play with this IoT device, this is it. Like, this is it for, this is all the time I'm going to get for the next year. So
yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really fortunate to have the support from my leaders that I have. Varun Krishna, who's our CEO, during our Hack Week. So Hack Week is like our latest implementation of the program. So in 2019, We evolved bullet time, which was this unstructured every 4 hours on a Monday, to a recurring quarterly week-long hackathon.
Okay.
Same kind of guidance, but also we're able to do more. Like I mentioned, these different methods of innovation. Like we're able to incorporate so many of those within a given week, whether that's the learning, the exploration, experimenting, fast fails, or like the longer experimental kind of stuff. We're able to engage team members in that capacity. But we also do a live stream in the mornings where we just talk about innovative concepts. We bring in guests from either experts from internal or even from outside of the organization to just like talk about all things innovation. I was able to have a conversation with Varun, the last one, and we really went deep on the value of unstructured time for our developers. And I think that's sometimes when I talk about ROI or like value that comes out of, innovation enablement in general, I think less of the things and more of the people. Like you're really, it's an investment in your folks, like that implicit trust of here's unstructured time. I know the problems that need to be solved, like go do it. The more we can do that, the more those behaviors and that courage and those taking risks can bleed over into your day-to-day work too.
And I think that's so challenging to like on both ends, right? It's challenging for leadership to give that and trust that, right? It's also challenging for the person to say, I might think about something for 4 hours and not be able to check it off my to-do list, right? And I think our brains love the predictability of the work that we know how to solve because it feels really good to like do a check mark. But that's also scary for the individual, right? To say like, I have all this unstructured time. Maybe I'm going to go spend it and have not come up with an answer because it hasn't hit me yet. Mm-hmm. Do you guide the folks during like that? Like, do you guide them on their own emotional kind of journey through being able to take the time and explore?
That certainly comes up. And we really, one of the things we try to do within the program is lean into the existing structures that are there. So like our leaders, your leaders they're there to support you through this, right? Like we are all aligned. Like this is the thing we're doing. If you're stressed about it, like you can talk to me, you can talk to your leader, right? Like we really have a full like alignment to help with that sort of emotional context of the experience.
I think what you just keyed in on, and it's such a hard thing to convey if it's not there. And I was actually talking with a fellow at our marketing group. It's sort of these subtle but profound effects of a hackathon, and they have these like platitudinal phrases like engagement, like you'll have more engagement, and it's like, yeah, what does that get me on the bottom line, right? But I think in a post-COVID world, and I don't have the words to articulate it, so maybe you can help, but like in a post-COVID world, maybe some people are remote, some people are work from home, maybe hybrid, it is a profound effect if you can convey that trust and you can give that opportunity. But it's so hard to put a box around that and kind of present it to someone as a benefit of doing this. You've got great leadership, so maybe there's less pressure for you to articulate that. But have you attempted to kind of present those benefits separate from the prototypes that come out of it?
Yeah, I tend to lean heavily into those benefits. And I know we have had a lot of success come out of the program, things that have made a huge impact on our business and our team members, right? Those things have happened. And I think it's probably disingenuous to say that isn't important, right? That's not my motivator. Right? My motivator, why I do this, is to provide a space for everyone to feel that they can contribute and make an impact safely. Again, in the way that makes sense to them to do it. So yes, Matt, I guess the direct answer is yeah. That's a thing we try to talk about all the time. My answer is that the most important things to come from an innovation program are not the widgets and not the products. It's the changes to the behaviors and practices of your people and your organization. Like the positive things. That's the most important thing that innovation program can give to any organization, because the way we work has a direct impact on what we're able to create. So if we continue to work in constrained, manufacturing line methodologies, you can't move fast with something like generative AI. You can't do that. You have to be flexible and be able to move just as fast. Like the culture of innovation has to move just as fast as the culture of the technology that you're running against.
That's a good point. Like in a vacuum, if you say we're going to increase employee engagement, that's not very satisfying. But
right.
in the context of a new disruptive threat that's on the windshield like AI, you better believe that you're going to be happy if you have this culture, if you've been investing in this culture of innovation all along, and then the team members can just go and swarm and move to those opportunities instead of, kind of living in fear and kind of being a deer in the headlights.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and also the idea that, like, when we talk about engagement, the idea that everyone's going to get engaged into this thing is you're going to fall on your face if that's what you think is going to happen. Like, don't make that your goal. Make your goal to have the things in place that so everybody, again, finds the way to, like a 24-hour hackathon. We get, 150 to 200 people engaged in that.
Mm-hmm.
Hack Week, 1,300, 1,400 team members.
Okay.
Right? Some of the other small, so it's not just about the amount of engagement, but it's like, are you getting the engagement you want for the purpose of the thing you're doing? Like 200 people is great. There's nothing, even if it's 10% of your organization, awesome. Is that like, did you reach to the maximum number of people who want to engage in that thing? Did you get the outcomes you're looking for from that type of engagement? If you did, awesome. If you didn't, let's figure out what those gaps are. This idea that everybody has the next big idea, I think, is an inhibiting factor to a culture of innovation, because you have people who don't. You just don't. You have people who are really good at iterating on the next big idea. You have people who are really good at helping you understand the gaps in your next big idea, but will never have the next Uber come out of their brains, because that's not how they're wired. They may have a great idea that is awesome. It just might not be on the same scale. So I think it just puts a weird pressure to say that we are all capable of the same thing. I believe we are all capable of making great impact, but we make that great impact in ways that are unique to us.
Yep.
Yeah, I always think about it as like, some people are good at the 0 to 1, some people are good at the 1 to scale, and some people are really good at like the tinkering and optimization post scale. And it's like, you don't have to be good at all of it, right? It's just, you have to know where your brain likes to live and then figure out how to hand it off once it's past where your brain likes to play.
Yeah, I love this kind of theme that's emerging of like the multiple modalities, and that, there's different kind of personality types, if you will, in terms of contributing to the innovation process. And you want to put out a fan of opportunities for people to kind of realize their highest potential in the context that best suits them, because, it may not be the right thing. Any individual activity may not be the right thing for any individual person.
Can I give a shout out to someone I think is really good at that?
Please do.
Not this. So there's a group called the Innovatrium out of Ann Arbor.
Okay.
Jeff DeGraff is the guy. He's also affiliated with the Ross School of Business at University of Michigan.
Okay.
Full disclosure, like I see him as a mentor of mine and his entire group. Like, I got a lot of my certification and learning from them when I was digging into this whole innovation stuff. He's got an entire thing built around this idea. They call it the different methods of innovation, or it's phrased differently now. But like, if that's something you want to go deeper on, I would look into what he's doing, and he probably somebody great for you to talk to also. He's involved in a lot of really interesting things.
So just with these quarterly hackathons and the Hack Week, I assume now you're pulling in people more than just a tech team, or what's the scope of that?
Yeah, so we are now inclusive of our product teams. We really allow anybody to come into it. We've had our operational folks. I've had mortgage bankers come in, and they've got great ideas and they want to dig into stuff, and we connect them with technologists to help them, a little more, realize that a bit more fully, so we can understand the idea and if it's something of value. We market primarily to product and technology. We don't directly market the opportunities outside of those groups, but there's no shut-off valve that says you can't do it. Because if you got a great idea and you can align on putting some time into it, we welcome everybody.
Sounds like you're currently doing these quarterly things as well as the Hack Week. So can you talk about that evolution? You mentioned you were involved with the first hackathon, then you kind of took over the program. And I'm curious, all the things that come with that. Did you, was it super ad hoc in the beginning? Did you have to go get budget? How did you get buy-in for all that? How did the whole thing come to be, so to speak? So
we were rolling pretty strong in bullet time, and it was going good. And we just we're always looking for, one of our isms is obsessed with finding a better way. And you look at, can we get even greater things? Can we do more with what we're looking at? And so I tried to find, like, if there's barriers in the way we're currently running things, what are those? And we started to hear some repeat things like, hey, it's really hard to carve out that time because every week I've got to compete with pressure for prioritization and like business value. Sometimes it takes me, sometimes I miss a couple weeks, and then I have to spin the project back up and remember where we are. So it's like churn, there's trying to catch up, there's context switching that happens, every Monday. So I thought, okay, like, if we look at these 5 major roadblocks to, like, for ultimate fulfillment in this thing, like, how can we mitigate or eliminate those? I'm like, well, let's make it part of the process instead of this ad hoc. Let's make it a part of the expectation that, hey, 1 week every quarter, we're going to do this thing. And it's planned, and everyone knows about it. And not only that, but we're also engaging. We're going to engage the business. We're going to engage our partners. We're going to get everyone involved and say, like, let's figure stuff out together. So when you talk about, like, those roadblocks of making sure that we've got value, making sure that we know things are happening, like, it's sort of how you get the buy-in. Like, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're including everybody up front. And this includes, like, the C-suite, like, getting buy-in from our executive leaders. Like, this is why we believe this will be just as impactful, if not more, than what we're currently doing, which is great. But we believe we can evolve this thing to be even more. So we just kind of showed what I think engagement metrics could increase, right? Because we're eliminating these roadblocks, which means just naturally we should start seeing more. And so we did. Like, I would say let's just say we had 200 ideas in the last year of bullet time, and half of however many of those went into production. Like, every hack week, we're getting 300 to 400 ideas every hack week, right? We're getting 1,300 team members every hack week. We do those 3 times a year. Now, we were experimenting quarterly. We tried 1 year with 5, and like 3 is kind of the sweet spot because it gives us time to, like, implement more like conference-y type things, and hackathons gives us a little more space to be able to do more of the different types of innovation that we like to do. But yeah, so just like, that's kind of where we evolved from that federated 4 hours every Monday, looking at how could we do more of that, which kind of brought us to this week of innovation.
I'm curious, what's kind of, it's kind of an easy question, but what's been the hardest part, in all this? I mean, it sounds like you've had a lot of success. Where were the stumbling blocks?
Boy, I think this would be an easy question.
Well, I'm easy question to ask.
Yeah, I'm an eternal optimist here. So I think the challenge, I want to give a real answer. I'll give this answer first. This is still a real answer. One of the challenges we have is not building new things for the program. So, like, tracking value, right? That can be a challenge. Yep. Because you got hundreds of projects and they're all over the place.
Yep.
I think the tendency is to want to build, well, I'm going to build a whole way to measure and track work. Well, those things already exist. I'm going to build a thing to, like, put stuff into production. Well, that already exists. Like, your organization already has a software delivery lifecycle. You already have mechanisms to get prioritization and visibility to leaders. So I think, like, the biggest challenge we have is wrangling all of that and making sure that visibility is always there at the right time. Like, visibility to the right people at the right place at the right time. That's probably one of the biggest challenges when you have a culture of innovation that has this implicit trust and says, like, hey, let's go do whatever we want. Because then people will do whatever they want. And oftentimes it's on things that you don't have a responsibility to maintain. So you're building stuff for another application or another process that you might not be close to, which is great because there's a ton of learning that comes from that. So I think the challenges that you face is always refining and tweaking those, like, on-ramps and the different ways to get visibility and things to the right places is a continual challenge.
Got it. Are you full-time now with just doing hackathons, or is this still kind of a side gig?
Oh, no, this is my full-time responsibility. I am very fortunate and very honored to have what I think is the best job in the entire organization. I'm empowered to create things to make people feel great about what they're doing here, right? And to do great things for our team members and our clients. I have so much fun doing it. I get creative freedom. I have so much trust from my leaders. I get to engage with team members in unexpected ways. Matt, part of what I do also is sort of community engagement stuff, like traveling, public speaking, going to the conferences like Synthesize, just getting to meet and then bring back like the learnings I have there. Like, I get to get involved in such a diverse set of things in this role.
Yeah, it's such a cool community that, when you talk to people, they're just like, have these fascinating stories, and all you need to do is just like open the door and let them talk. And like, it's like, whoa, it's like overwhelming, everything they have to say and, what they've learned on their own. Different people go into different, areas and look at it differently. It's pretty awesome.
Something that I keep coming back to is like, it feels like this culture of innovation is obviously so tied to culture, right? Like, and people, and how do you interface with, do you have a culture team, somebody that's responsible for internal culture? Is that a piece of this innovation? Or how do you, in your role, interface with like that type of like HR people function?
So we do some work, I'll often get engaged with our recruiting teams, with, internal, like some of our people, we've done some collaboration on projects, welcomed their groups into some of this stuff. But I think the program is a part of building our culture and our people. It is a part of that mechanism. We don't report, we're not a dotted line reporting to that, but it is certainly...
it seems so crucial.
It's probably the primary function or the primary return or value that we deliver, I think, is contributing to our technology culture and our culture of innovation and our people.
Yeah, and I keep thinking like it's kind of like a chicken and an egg scenario of like, do you need the leadership to enable the innovation? And then I kept going back to like, it's not chicken or an egg. It's more of like this culture of innovation, if done right, can be a flywheel, right? And it feels like what you're building and what you're looking at is just, how do I entrench this culture further into the organization in new and better ways? But yeah, I keep going back to like, it's kind of a chicken or an egg. Like, you need the leadership to give you that authority and autonomy to be able to go and trust, right? To be able to go and do those things. I don't know if there's a question in there, more of just an observation, but
I
like,
feel
how do you recreate this? And it's like, you would need to at the leadership level.
I do think you need both components there. You need the leaders to either already have that trust or have the ability to open up and give that trust. But you need the people pushing at the ground level. If you don't have those, then, there's who's going to carry that banner.
Yeah.
So a couple more operational questions that I'm interested in. Do you see this as like multiple programs, or is there, like obviously you have Hack Week and you have the 3 times a year. Is that all kind of one thing under like the tech hackathons, or is there like the advanced tech group that's running hackathons and the I don't know, maybe somebody more like product managers or something like that? Is it all one thing, or is it separate things?
So programmatically, it's one thing. Like the things I do are under one umbrella.
Okay.
Like this, I call it the Future Labs Innovation Program. Those are all things that are generated by my team and the way that we engage virtually with the organization. My goal is that our teams adopt these practices on their own. And we're seeing that. So this year we've had teams run their own hackathons.
Nice.
And just say, we're going to do it, for this reason. So again, it goes back to the value of a program as the changes to the practices and behaviors of the people in the organization. Like we're seeing that happen. So they don't have to happen with us.
Would that be one you helped them run previously and they're taking it over, or would that be just a new group that's saying like, hey, we're gonna that's a new group that said, is a development team that said, hey, we're gonna do one for ourselves. Nice, awesome.
And that's absolutely what you want to start seeing. You want to see teams feel empowered to be able to do this unstructured work. Because here's the thing: no matter what, like my goal is to put myself out of a job. I don't think I'll ever get there because there's always a need for the next way we work asymmetrically.
Yep.
Right? Like you lead the charge to the next undiscovered place, and then you got to go to the next place. So there's always somebody that has to figure that out.
Yep. So maybe we can talk a little bit about results, and if we say anything that we're not allowed to, we can bleep it out later or edit it out later. But
sure.
Are there any things that stand out? Kind of big wins from your program?
Yeah. So one of the things that, we've talked about is this Rocket Logic. It's sort of our, generative AI. We're leaning heavily into that. We had a pretty significant portion of that come out of last year's 24-hour hackathon.
So talk to us more about what that is and what.
So let's see. The component of it that really worked on was for our mortgage bankers, that helps allow them to have more natural conversations with our clients.
Okay.
So it's literally it's recognizing all the stuff you need to talk about and letting the banker know that it's been covered versus talking through a script.
Okay.
So you have it's enabling really natural conversations with one another.
So does it look at the unique circumstances of that one customer, and then it kind of weaves a narrative through that for the banker? I mean,
there's stuff you always have to capture, and
right.
So it just makes sure you're capturing all of that.
Okay. But it's feeding the banker proactively, or it's looking at what they said and making sure they check the boxes?
Yeah, it's looking at what the conversation that's happening in real time.
Okay. Oh, I see.
And I can just,
So they're just chatting, and it's like, bunk, bunk, bunk. You hit those things. That's pretty cool. Well, you guys also did this rocket approval, right? That was a big deal in the industry, right? It's 3 minutes or something to a mortgage approval.
Yeah, like Rocket push button, get mortgage. Yeah, Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We've been experimenting, especially in the innovation program, with machine learning AI for years. We had machine learning models that have, we have one project that has resulted in over $100 billion in revenue or in volume for the organization.
Wow.
Just one experiment.
That's crazy.
We've had, when you talk about value that's come out for sure, we have things we can lean into.
What's your advice for a lot of people are on their heels with AI. They see it as a disruptive threat. I mean, I was sitting in an Uber one time, and a robotaxi drove by, and it was this awkward moment because I have a driver in my car, and the robot, it's the signs of disruption are right there in front of your nose. I'm curious, what do you have any advice for someone who's kind of been on the, proactive about jumping into AI? What do you think is a good way for leaders and managers to kind of embrace this challenge and opportunity?
Think about augmentation instead of replacement.
Okay.
How do we leverage technology to allow our people to do more of what people can do versus the stuff that we shouldn't be bothering with?
Got it.
That fear of being replaced, sure, I'm sure there's some stuff that's going to happen, but culturally, I think this is a great thing for humans overall, because we are just in this weird defined space of we do a thing and that's what we do.
Yep.
Right. But we're so much more. You asked Matt, is this something I do on the side, or is this my job? Right now, this is my job. But, I also love to get out into the community and get involved in recruiting things, even if it's not part of my role. I still find other ways to engage. I coach girls field hockey in high school. I do all, I do all kinds of stuff. Think about in your job and with technology, you have a fear of being replaced because you might only be thinking about you do this one thing. Roles post generative AI can be whatever we want them to be. What is what's the human capability? What's your brain power you have? What can you contribute to the organization that's not just a singular function like data entry? Like I was doing at the beginning. If I think about it, if I didn't have to do data entry at the very beginning, how much faster could I have found this part of my life that I love to do and can make an impact on? I think if you just remove fear of replacement, and that sounds real easy to do. That's the advice I give. Think augmentation. Don't worry about replacing. Spend your energy finding what that thing is that you can do post generative AI. I don't know. Maybe that's more of a inspirational talk, but functionally,
it's all right in your story, right? Like you said, you were doing data entry, and now you're doing everything we just talked about, and there it is, right? Free people up from the humdrum and let them reach their highest potential. It's
The other thing that I picked up is a lot of the things that you were saying that you do outside of if AI is going to take over all the other jobs. It was all about people connection, right? You're I coached you know, and I, you know, recruit and I go talk. And it does feel a little bit like if we do this right, the tech and AI can take over all of this stuff that makes it harder for us to have time for human connection. And it does feel like that's the thing that's not going to go away, is this desire and need for human beings to connect with each other. And cool if the bots can do the data entry so we can have more time to be human.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think about things like Synthesize, Afrotech, all of these conferences, you know, Fast Company Innovation Festival out in New York. So much of what I do today, I learned from making those connections with people that had nothing to do with my current job. So like at Synthesize, you know, meeting Franz Johansson, I think I met him at the last one. And like, he really opened my eyes to this like empathy and really thinking about, you know, I think one of his books, The Click Moment, just being ready for those unexpected times to be able to like key into when innovation is ready for you. I think those are the things that we need to do more of in lieu of technology having a stronger foothold in the functional aspects of our job. Like, get out, meet the people, understand how you can continue to adopt emotional practices into your workspaces to continue to generate and build trust and empower culture in your organization. That's how you do it, like by being authentic and really caring about your people. And like, you learn that from meeting other people who do it better than you.
Yep. All right, I got a couple more questions, and we're running out of time here, so maybe I'll go a little rapid fire.
Okay, I'll try to keep it succinct.
Ready, set, go.
And answer the actual question you asked.
So what learnings did you take from your music experience that helped you in this role?
Oh, man, that anything else I fail at doesn't matter, because I fail at the thing I love to do most. And so everything else is, no, for real, everything else is just an opportunity for me to do something cool. Like, I already know what it feels like to fail, so I'm not afraid of it. And also, the structure of writing music and the process of writing music can be applied to anything. I have a thing I want to express. There's a certain way for me to do it. I need certain band members, people with certain skills to do that thing. I know how to find those people. I know how to communicate across skills that I didn't know how to play drums, but I learned how to communicate like I want X, Y, Z. So I just use those communication capabilities are the same thing for talking about technology.
Shared language.
What was your instrument, or what was your role in the band?
Guitar and vocals.
Okay. Yeah, when I was learning guitar very primitively, and but it definitely, looking at the structure of songs, which I needed to be able to like remember it, like intro, outro, chorus, that actually helped me with like presentations. It's like, oh, we're gonna have an intro, we're gonna have an outro, we're gonna have to rehearse it 50 million times before we ever go on stage with it, because that's just how it works. So, and then where's all this headed? What's next? What's the future vision for the Hackathon program or the Future Labs program at Rocket?
Boy, if I would love to have a continuous flow of event to event. So like hackathon out to a hack week, out to a conference, out to, the next thing, bringing in a speaker that is relevant to that whole thing, of just having a whole fluid, it's a river that's always moving and that you can pull into and out of at any time, instead of like, I'd love to figure out that.
What's interesting is it seems to me like you've been, I love the word seducing, but seducing the organization to give more of this unstructured time. Like, it's like you start with a sliver and then you kind of like, you show some value, show some return, and then you it's like, okay, maybe we'll do a week thing, maybe we'll do a continuous thing, So it's pretty cool that you've been able to kind of like get your foot in the door and then constantly grow the amount of this unstructured time that people have access to.
Yeah, and hey, look, I could not have done that without like my leaders, like Pat Harford, Ling Long He, Josh Zook, Brian Woodring, like that. None of this would happen if I didn't have leaders who trusted and like also like were also willing to kick the door down for stuff too. Like, it really is a team. Like, I love that I have the opportunity to do this, but I'm doing it with some great people.
Is there any question we should have asked that we didn't ask, that we're going to miss out on some really good stuff?
Give us the FOMO.
The FOMO? Let's see. What didn't you ask? I don't know. I
always hate corporate surveys because you can only answer the questions they ask.
Should I dye my beard? Maybe you should ask me about that. Have you thought about dyeing your beard? That question wasn't asked.
Well, I remember when you came out for Synthesize, these colorful boots. Are they still in? Are they still in the rotation?
They are. Yeah, I have. So let's see. 2020, I bought my first pair of hot pink Doc Martens.
Okay.
I bought those. I went to New York this past February, and I custom made some, again, hot pink Chucks. That's kind of my thing. Is that those colorful boots?
Pink. Is there some footwear that you have yet to acquire that's on your list?
A coworker of mine just bought me. I'm looking at them right now. Wheelies.
Can you grab them? Can we see these?
Yeah. Let me. Yeah. Hang on.
Is he gonna go just like sliding by?
I don't know what the wheelie is, but we're gonna find out.
All right. So I don't have the wheels in them right now, but here they are.
All right.
Oh, cool.
There's the hole for them.
So is that the one that you can actually just totally skate on?
Yes.
I was hoping, Jordan, that you were just going to come like gliding through the frame.
I got one more question. This is a shout out to Caitlin, our producer, and she wanted me to ask you about the post-ironic Taylor Swift fan comment on your LinkedIn, which is apparently in your official title. It's not just a side comment. That's formally your responsibility.
It's a real thing. So I have two daughters, and as they were growing up, we would start listening to Taylor Swift.
How old are they now?
They're 16 and 15.
Okay.
16 and 14. My youngest will be 15 in September. Girls, they're my favorite part of my life. So we would listen to Taylor Swift, and as a former snobby musician who knew all this not real music, I was would joke with my friends, I'm listening to this, and I would ironically put it on in the car and with my friends in there, and we'd laugh about it. And then one day I was like, oh boy, I think I might like this song.
There's no friends, there's no girls in the car.
Yes. Sing along to it. I like this. And then I started to get really defensive when people would talk. I'm like, what is happening to me? Why is this happening? And it turns out I've grown to really appreciate, musically what she does. And I, of course, respect the work ethic and the absolute monolith that she's created.
Yeah, I mean, the
business mogul.
Oh my gosh,
genius!
It's so impressive.
Yeah,
but I was like, I really like this, and so but I did fall on the sword, and I did not go to when she was in Detroit.
That was going to be
got tickets for my wife and my daughters to go, and that was
angel.
Yeah. They had a great time. So, but that's kind of how it came to be. And so I work into all my stuff. I always have 22 little pictures of Taylor Swift in my PowerPoints. 22 is one of her songs. Okay. I just work all these really silly things because it kind of came away for me to create a brand of publicly that just disarmed or helped to throw unexpected stuff into what I'm going to talk about. And it just gave another way for people to come and engage with me. What is it with this Taylor Swift thing? And then I could,
I think that's really smart. If you're talking about creating a culture of emotional safety, it's you're the first one to be hey, this is something that you could potentially find embarrassing about me, but I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to embrace it. And either we can connect if you agree, but you can also feel free to roast me about it because I'm kind of roasting myself about it.
Yeah.
And it's a nice touch point and a good way to kind of circle this all around, which is that's a great way to create that emotional stability is to stick your neck out on the line and be a little vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do all that with pink Doc Martens, and no one can get you.
Yeah, a purple velvet suit coat was my other thing I like to wear, but that's gone through the ringer. Yeah.
Well, Jordan, thank you for your time today. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. You're such a colorful individual, literally as well as figuratively, as we found out.
Thanks, Matt.
And I'd love to see you soon at a conference or something and catch up.
Yeah. Hey, Margaret, thank you. Matt, thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't part and say, Matt, I've always appreciated working with your team. I've learned so much from that group. I just, I have the honor to be able to work with so many great thinkers, and I'm thankful that you invited me here today, and I love talking about this, and I'm glad I got to talk about it with you.
Well, at the risk of being too gushy, every time we talk about both the hack program and the cheese factory as being world class, I can't think of any other programs that are above that. So it's we learn a ton working with you guys as kind of the bleeding edge, and it's a real treat, and we really appreciate all that.
Yeah. Shout out to the cheese factory team at Rocket. You guys are great.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you, next week. Have a great one.
What a gem of a human being. I had such a great time in that conversation listening to him. And yeah, what thoughtful, empathetic, intelligent, really, really a good one.
I think he just kind of embodies the exactly what you need to be, and just his story, right? That he started in this data entry clerk, and the organization was kind of smart enough to find him and elevate him and to give him that opportunity. And then now I feel like he's paying it forward, right? He got the goods from the senior leadership, and now he's creating the environment for the next generation of people. And I'm sure there's another Jordan in the groups he's influencing that, in 5 or 10 years will be stepping into those larger roles as well.
Yeah. I was really fascinated and in this wrap up thread of how much a culture of innovation, when tended to, can almost be like a flywheel, right? Of it grows. And he's sort of tending this flywheel. And I liked when he was wanting to almost become replaceable, right? He wants to matter less in his current role of what he's doing and build this into a flywheel of, he was saying one of the success metrics is when the folks kind of start organically adopting the practices that they do in more of the structured hackathons and free time and whatnot. And because he knows that there's always more to do, right? There's always more cuspy bits of how to find and bring innovation into it. And I think it's a really healthy mindset, and one that I always kind of remind myself of there will never not be work to do, right? And so the more you can make yourself matter less in the current role, you're building the machine to then go and do the next thing. And that, it feels like he's very future focused in that way.
Yeah, I love, I'm a little bit esoteric on innovation, but I love the old black and white photos of people cutting grass and hay with these scythes things. And, and then the tractors come along, and it's tens of thousands of people don't have to do backbreaking work anymore. They can just go and, eat bread, and, you just have one tractor doing the work of hundreds, if not thousands of people. So,
I saw a tweet the other day of a woman that was I don't want, and maybe I mentioned this on a previous episode when we were recording, but it was I want AI to do my desk job so I can go do art. Right, and it is that funny place of where are we going to spend our time as human beings? And I'm so glad we touched on that too, of if all of this generative AI takes a lot of the rote tasks, the data entry tasks off of our plate, where will we spend our time, as human beings? And I think that is a really interesting question to come out of the next couple years of rapid paced innovation.
Yeah, we talked about the theme of the last Synthesize event was a golden age of innovation, and we were talking about these disruptive waves, and AI was just one of them. Frankly, there's multiple, and I think one thing that's I found in my own touching AI is that you still have to bring the insight. You can say I want to do Project X, and it can give you the steps. It can write the code for you. It can tell you where the bugs in the code are, but you still have to say, I want to do X. And I think that, if we can get to that place where you can basically do anything, you just have to think about the best things to do. I think that's a really amazing place for humanity to get to. And I think, that's going to define the whole 21st century. That's going to, in the last century is you had these, it was all about industrialization, right? It was factories and cars and the suburban lifestyle and, the American way of life, and, a home with, 2.5 kids and stuff like that. And we're just beginning to see the outlines of what, this century is going to offer to us. And I think it's going to be this shift from, Einstein said, success is 98%. Or 2% inspiration, 98% perspiration. But with AI doing some of the work for us, the inspiration becomes a larger and larger part of that. And it's really going to be amazing. My son's coming up on 6 years old, and I can only imagine what his life is going to look like, with these capabilities.
But I think that becomes sort of the next big philosophical question is, if you can do anything, what should you be doing, right? And it does feel like that's where the tailwind is. It's not, oh, there's so many different constraints, and so you have to do this one thing, go ahead and make the best of it. If we as human beings could do anything, to your point, or build anything or make anything, what should we do? What can we do? What's the right decision-making framework for how to make that decision? Because it used to be that we had, to your point, all of those constraints. Even businesses with industrialization required, so much capital and investment to spin up a factory and spin up these things that, big life question right there.
But yeah, I mean, we're going into a lot of people talk about the word abundance, and if you can capture energy from solar, and if you have robots to do the labor, it's like you're only limited by, what you can conceptualize to do. And I think we all had a moment, maybe a decade or two ago, when you're looking at, you finally got what the Google search box meant. And you're like, wait, I can put anything in here and get the answer. And all of a sudden the whole situation pivoted to you're the limit, right? Like like what, I just don't have good questions to ask. Like if I could just ask better questions, the answers are out there. And I think now AI is going to take that not just to answering questions, but to actually, how do you do things? How do you build things? How do you create things? And even in our own internal hackathon, I've been tinkering with stuff, and just, you come up with an idea and then you just ask AI, what are the steps? And it's like, go do this, go do this, go do this, go do this. And it's like, wow, I would have had to peel through manuals for 2 days to find that answer.
Yeah, I think that might be the skill set of the future, is how do you ask better questions? How do you have better creative ideas? Because that will be the thing that kind of separates the masses.
And I think we're in such an intense, divisive political environment. I think a key component of that is how do you kind of protect your mind enough to think positively about the future? Because if anything's possible, it's really important that you think about good things happening versus bad things happening. And I think that the struggle is going to be, can we put down our social media long enough to just continue to envision a better future, so that we kind of steer ourselves on this path in a more conscious and intentional way.
Well, and it sounds like a big takeaway from the episode too is this importance of unstructured time. And so that part of that is put down your phone for some unstructured creative brain time. And that would be useful for all of us, right?
Yeah. It's also amazing how much work and structure it takes to create that unstructured time.
To create that unstructured time, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All
right, Margaret. Well, thank you again for taking the time, and we'll see you next week with another great episode. I think we've got Amtrak coming up, or I'm not sure what's next, but we've got some more great individuals and great stories coming down the pike.
Look at you teasing out some big names.
All right.
Creating a little FOMO. Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Synthesize Pod. For more resources on how to bring innovation to the forefront of your organization, sign up for our newsletter at brightidea.com. That's BRIGHTIDEA.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.